How many hours is that?
I just thought it was kind
Talking
of
about,
different
it's in the
day.
February
They
one.
don't know. Right now, they don't know how to place
You're
it.
in February accomplishments, not January?
But they were supposed to come through with names
Okay.
originally.
Yeah, well,
The process center somehow.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You know, what was
definitely.
the name
You
of
said
that?
you can go ahead and get
never
started.
mind.
4
would go
o'clock,
and do
shall we
the
call the
unclaimed.
Parks and Recreation Committee together? The staff confirmation that Kansas Open Meeting Act requires notice has been properly provided.
It was.
What? Good. Roll call, please.
Ann Zimmerman.
Denny Walgren.
Bruce Richardson.
Larry Pankratz,
Bonnie Schamberger.
John Miller.
Okay, do we have any guests here? I don't really see any. There'd be no citizens forums. Nobody else is here.
If I may, before we get to approval of the agenda, there's one item I would like to suggest adding to the agenda that we neglected to put on, was to for the board to discuss and nominate a vice chair position. We do not have that position assigned. If the board so chooses, I'd like to see if that can be added to today's agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented with the addition of the election of a vice chair.
I second it.
Who shall we nominate?
no, say all
We
in
should,
favor.
have to
All in
vote.
favor.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Thank
now,
you.
Opposed?
I'm
all signs
nominating.
opposed?
Oh,
You do oppose? Okay.
no. Sorry, I was on to the next thing. May I nominate Larry Pankratz for our vice
Second
chair?
it.
It's a railroad.
Is that- All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign?
I didn't say aye to start with.
Oh.
Good.
Anonymous. Okay, have a reading of the minutes and approval?
I move that we approve the minutes
Second?
of both meetings, the December meeting and the special meeting.
I'll also second that.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? Okay, so I'm gonna read second meeting, December meetings,
No, activity reports.
activity reports.
So we have two months of activity reports, one for December and one for January. And as I normally do, quickly go through highlighted items within both December and January's activity reports. Just remember that now some of this information is now 2 months old, so more than 2 months old, depending on the month. So December, looking at December activity reports that would have been reported in January. We this time of year we prepare for equipment purchases to go to bid for that equipment. We create specifications based on what has been approved for the capital funds for the current year, and those specifications go to bid. Those bids have come back just this week, and for equipment, whether that be mowers or carts or specialty equipment like seeding equipment or spraying equipment or special equipment at the golf course. So that's on there. We have an open position in parks that looks like we had interviews that we are looking to possibly name this month to move forward with naming someone to that position. As you can see in December, which was reported in January, a lot of cleanup still going on, and there's pictures associated with that. The picture that is provided for the January 17th activity report is from Jerry Ivy, I believe. That's Jerry Ivy, where we are cleaning up the large, overgrown, aged evergreen bushes on the north side of what was Jerry Ivy Pond. Looks amazing with that new line of sight that you see at Jerry Ivy Park. Christmas tree stations, and you'll see in the month of January where our results of that Christmas tree drop-off stations at 4 of our parks. And we had at Lakewood Park, we had at the pond at Lakewood, we had a December installation of fish, of trout at the pond at Lakewood Park in December and January. We had to break through the ice in January to get the fish in there. But the fisheries biologist for the state of Kansas helps us out with that and makes it happen. Special events that occurred over those 2 months period, we had the Mayor's Christmas Party, which was called Mayor's Pancake and PJ Christmas Party at the Field House. We had New Year's Eve.
Did you have Salina Parks and Recreation pajamas made for that, or?
I wasn't in attendance, but there were other people that were in attendance. But we did not have custom-made pajamas made for staff for that event, no.
I lost a bet.
New Year's Eve party on December 31st at Tony's Pizza Event Center. And then we had the Ties and Tiaras event, which is our father-daughter, mother-son family dance event in January. Travis, I'm assuming you want to speak eventually. Well, let me finish up what I'm doing, and if you wanted to go through Fieldhouse and athletics items. Our facility maintenance staff has been very busy. We have a facility improvement project that's taking a lot of his time. It's through a company called Schneider Electric. It started with an audit of all of our facilities and which includes our lighting, our HVAC, and many of our facilities. And that's taking up quite a bit of his time. And then we have a lot of progress being made through that division, through our construction division of the facilities maintenance group on the tennis bathrooms at the Kenwood Park. And I'll get into that a little more detail when we talk about projects. And as you can see, I'm on to the February 21st activity reports. That is an encapsulation of activities in January. And you can see the Christmas tree report that was provided for the Christmas tree drop-offs and how much Christmas trees were dropped off. Park staff helped, our forestry staff helped clean up around the golf course pond. One of our objectives, which I think I talked about at the special meeting for this year, was to clean up that frontage area along Crawford where the golf course is at. And one of our objectives was the pond, which is an irrigation pond. They use it for irrigating the golf course. But cleaning that up around there's lots of trees, a lot of saplings growing around there, so there was quite a bit of effort, and now we need to keep it that way. In the cemetery, there's an item in here that we are working with the county and the city manager's office to use a portion of the mausoleum at Gypsum Hill Cemetery to assist in the storage of unclaimed cremains, unclaimed ashes. And we've created that. There's a picture provided that.
These just anonymous people, or are they just people that they have a name but no one claimed them?
It's unclaimed. They're unclaimed. Yeah. It's something that the county is really responsible for. The county doesn't have a current room. We anticipate getting some funding, the city receiving some funding from the county for our ability to store that. And then long-term, we have a longer plan to do something a little more sophisticated in honoring of those cremains. Don't know what that looks like at this time.
So are we talking 10? Are we talking 70? What?
Less than 100
Okay.
total.
Wow. So that many, I was surprised.
They have names or not?
Yes, they do have names.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah. There's an inventory, there's a catalog. We know exactly whose remains we have.
That's interesting.
That's good.
Didn't know that.
They're provided by the funeral home, so that they have all the information and they pass it along to us. The animal shelter, we did enlist the help of a animal shelter architect. There's an architect who specializes in animal shelters and other facilities for animals, whether they be humane societies or rescue missions or something like that for animals. We conducted a needs, we're in the process of a needs assessment study for the facility to determine square footage and how we use the space, if there's a need for additional space for staff and for dogs. And that's currently underway. As you can see under Kenwood Cove, our aquatic supervisor, who is currently doing interviews for staff, had a verbal commitment of about 90% of her staff that wanted to return to Kenwood Cove for this upcoming summer, which to me is amazing. It's
What's the normal percent that return?
retention rates. If it depends on the year, but I can put it this way. In my time as being an aquatics person, which I have been prior to this role for 28 years, my best was 82%. And that was when lifeguarding was looked at as a premier summer job. This was in the early 90s. So, where if you had to choose fast food over lifeguarding, you would choose, or if you had to choose one of the two, you would choose lifeguarding. Might not be the same at this point in time, but it's not as glamorous as it once was. But some years were 50%, some were 60%. So it's kind of, there's not something you can point to as being a consistent percentage that I've found. So we're looking at doing some improvements at Kenwood Cove. The surface of the walls and the floor need maintenance, and we are doing a project for that. It's going before City Commission on Monday for the approval of that. I wanted to point out rounds played. Playable rounds or playable days in the month of January at the golf course were minimal. The weather in January really put a hurting on the ability for the golf course to allow people to play golf. And if Travis wishes to talk about the field house, anything, I think he provides a report that was summarizing this year's efforts at the field house, and I think he has some good news to report regarding that.
Sure. I'll go back to December a little bit. December with the field house kind of starts our winter programming. So you have a lot of volleyball, basketball, and indoor futsal going on in there. And so that starts hot and heavy during that month. And then we do have a good presence with homeschool in the facility as well, with practices and games. For events in the December, we'd had the Wintery Arts Craft Show. That's a pretty big event that takes up the whole lobby. I want to backtrack to that mayor's pancakes and pajamas. Mayor Hoppeck was on a roll that day. He was all dressed out and he looked pretty good. So we did enjoy Santa, Mrs. Claus, crafts, snow globe, and pancakes, and then pretty much all the fixins that you can dream of putting on a pancake. So we think it was a pretty successful event. MEYB did host a tournament that month as well. And then I did provide in the packet, as much like we do in the outdoor, results from 2023 in there, and they pretty much speak for themselves. But we're at 35 events, and I didn't really include the COVID year, but I gave you some numbers in there pre-COVID and then leading up to this year. We're definitely stair-stepping in the right direction, and definitely rebounded from the COVID year. So if you have any questions on those, be glad to answer them.
But does that really include all the leagues?
No.
Yeah,
It's just tournaments and events.
because I've been in a lot of league stuff, and so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's half of probably what you see every year, isn't it? I mean,
I run a report on tournaments/events because those are more of the weekend things that's going on.
or
and-
like the kids things during the week.
Right.
Yeah.
And I try to report those leagues to you monthly. But yeah, definitely got a lot of leagues going on during the week. And these are just the weekend tournaments/events that we do host in the facility as well. So if there's no questions on the tournament events results, I'll move on to January. Much the same. We have those same leagues going on during the week. And then more in January, our baseball, softball practices get really hot and heavy, which includes the college and high schools. And good luck finding a space on that turf, during those winter months. It's very, very competitive. Someone asked me this question, and I never thought in my wildest dreams when we built the facility we would be hosting rentals and events like sumo wrestling and National Army Guard workouts, and just various things that do occur that want that warmth and want that turf space, especially. So just a lot of different activities we have going on in there.
And if you haven't had a chance to see it, he has an iPad, and he can raise and lower the netting. I mean, it's just, I was real impressed. I did not realize that was that automated.
When we built the facility, we knew we had to be flexible, and we knew we had to change spaces, and time is money. Time is another space that we can provide for a different group. So we do change spaces on the hour, and that iPad is pretty nice to have instead of the old hand cranking days of doing the volleyball nets to basketball, changing heights. We can do that on the fly with an iPad when it's working. So technology is great when it works, right? The only thing we do change, and this is daily, every morning, myself and other staff, we change bleachers, we change chairs, tables, those type of things. We physically do that every single morning. So that does take up a morning time, but we're glad to do it.
If I may, it's also, we knew, well, I wasn't in the role of director or deputy director at the time, but we also kind of recognized that we weren't going to have a plethora of staff at the facility to run this, so that technology assists in that as well. So, sorry, thanks, Trevor.
No, that's all right. As far as Fieldhouse events in January, we had a New Year's Bash. That was a good one. And then another MAYB tournament. We do host gymnastics in there. I don't know if people realize that, but we have the capability of opening up that whole space, and it turns into a gymnastics meet. And then that's a pretty good sight to see. Smoky Valley hosted their middle school and high school basketball tournament. The reason I bring that up is there was 48 teams there, not just from around here. It was from Nebraska, Colorado, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So they're bringing in a lot of teams, a lot of visitor spending, which led into, which will occur later on this month. We are hosting the National Division II homeschool tournament, and we're anticipating over 80 teams for that, and over a 3-day course. So when the downtown is packed and you cannot find a parking spot, that's probably why.
So do you have to provide referees or anything, or they can do all that?
No.
Oh, good.
We provide the space and facilitate for them and get the tournament director what they need, and then they handle all the internal as
They
far
come
as
from all
officials.
over the United States.
Yes.
Wow.
So we're really looking forward to that.
And that's next a week from this weekend?
next week. February 29th, March 1, March 2,
Yeah,
that
right.
stretch in there.
Cool.
So that'll be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday event.
Wow.
And they are also playing at Kansas Wesleyan as one of their more premier gyms. And then they do have a timeout session there where they bring everybody in there and then they do a session like that. So no games during that time, but we have 5 courts running in the field house and bringing in additional seating. So looking forward to it.
If there's any questions about anything on the activity reports, I'd be happy to answer. Or additional information that we can provide.
We got any questions? On the new business?
In your packet, and I've done this for the past 2 or 3 years, where I give you a summary of the programming, recreation programming, of the results of that programming as the, well, let me back up a minute. The second document is in your packet is the revenue and pricing policy, which is what we call the cost recovery policy. Typically in a government, there is a comprehensive fee schedule, and those fees are brought once a year to the city commission. And many years ago, a previous director brought a policy towards the commission about being a little more flexible. Instead of coming to commission every time we wanted to change fees, the revenue and pricing policy, or the cost recovery policy, was to give some flexibility and to pricing for recreation programming, so we can balance out within a pyramid of pricing structure for our rec programs. So, for example, some of and there's an inventory of the programs that we offered, the recreation programs we offered. That's a kind of an orangish, tannish color. I realize it's kind of hard to read. It's pretty small, and I'm sorry about that. But some of those programs are a highly community benefit, like special events, where the entire community is welcome to come. And those are typically free events, and that would be on the low end, where we would not charge a fee. We understand that it's for the community. We understand that it's for the entire community's benefit, and there would be no cost associated with it. So the cost recovery would then be zero. Whereas on the higher end of the pyramid, we have a highly individual benefit, such as camps and trying to think of other examples.
A lot of things at Lakewood, it looks like the bug hunt is up there. Or is that it's only mostly individual? You're looking for
Right, mostly
highly
individual, right.
individual, okay.
So if I can find under on Exhibit A, which is the policy, it shows the pyramid, the cost recovery pyramid, and those are the different the structure of the pyramid and the structure of the different cost recovery levels, to show you what those definitions are of those areas. And then
like if someone rents our facilities, like a tournament or anything, is that more the mostly individual cross recovery or individual?
we would have an expectation of recovering all of our costs associated with that. So that'd be a highly individual event, or an individual event where the expectation is that we should capture 100% of our rental.
And like if the school district does it, it'd be more like mostly, or would it be highly?
I would say yes, yeah.
We do have special rates for schools.
Okay. And the part of my purpose in showing you the results of 2023 is also in the last page of your packet is a recommendation for fees for 2024. Part of the policy states that we are empowered through the city manager's office to raise fees by 10% based on factors such as inflation or food costs or supply costs. None of the fees that we're recommending to you for 2024 go above 10%. I believe it's one of those things where I need to put it in front of this board to show our efforts from the previous year, and then also show fee recommendations for the upcoming year, which is now. If there was something above 10%, I would need to go to the city commission eventually to get that authorization, and also, of course, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So, for example, yes, a lot of the sports-related things are an individual community benefit. You can see some of the adult events are mostly individual. The summer camp is an individual community benefit. Any questions about the cost recovery policy?
What are some of the expenses that are incurred, and obviously some get allocated elsewhere because they, well, I mean, I was just curious if there was I don't think, or, wages and salaries probably aren't on this. Is that?
Correct. The definition of the expenses incurred for a program relating to the cost recovery policy is really a extrapolation of what the National Recreation Park Association considers cost recovery.
Oh,
so it's a direct
okay.
expense for the program. So
Sure.
our salaries would not be part of it. The supplies, the expenses of officials, part-time wages would
Okay.
be included in that. If there's an expense relating to certifications or something that you have to enroll in, that would be part of that. There is a portion of the formula that goes into cost recovery that would include an additional 15% of overhead, if you would.
I see.
So the total expense price that you see in this form includes that additional 15% to cover things that are not necessarily called out directly as direct expenses.
I see.
It's an attempt to kind of capture some of those indirect expenses.
Okay.
Because if you start thinking about it, you start looking at utilities, you start looking at the salaried
Other
staff
overhead,
costs, you
yeah.
talk about what it takes for Dennis's staff to prepare a park area, grass, mowing, seeding, heating, cooling, electrical. It does not include necessarily direct expenses relating to facilities maintenance, about what it takes to maintain that, to change the light bulbs, to fix and repair things that do break.
And that's what I was thinking, yeah, because I
Yeah.
thought there was,
So that 15% additional on top of that's in part of that total expense is an effort to capture that.
I see.
It also includes the cost of our software that collects all these registrations. It does not necessarily include the costs of the people that sit at a desk and who are our administrative staff who, take the phone calls. It doesn't include that.
Okay.
So there is a definition in the policy that does talk about that to some degree of the direct expenses.
Okay.
And what is a direct expense? It's on the third page of that. The direct expense.
There we go. I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, the direct
Here we
expense
go.
would be attributed directly to the specific service or program.
So did you happen to add up the total expenses and the total revenue from this page from the program cost recovery?
So are you referring to this page?
Yes, uh-huh.
And I'm sorry, what was your question, Bonnie?
Did you add all the expenses and then all the revenue, and
Yes,
is that in here?
it's on this page
Okay.
for these specific programs.
I know, you didn't add the whole thing.
Oh, total, all
like
these
total,
together?
yeah.
I did not,
I
actually.
just was wondering what the
No,
difference was.
that's a good point, because we do track that. We do look at that as an overall. Generally, we want to be in the 38% or higher mark. We want to try to capture 38% or higher of all of our expenses with that revenue. And that's actually above national average. National average is 30 to 32, and I want to be better than that.
Cool.
That's a good point. And if the board wishes, I can update that and provide it next month. That's a good point.
So on Exhibit B, is that part of the recreation fee recommendations?
Oh, yes, that's what I was actually looking for that form. These are examples of programs that would be examples of, I thought I didn't provide it, but I did. But yes, thank you, Larry. That would be examples of the different portions of the pyramid that would be examples of each level of the pyramid.
So then on the fees over here where it says like private rentals, here it says private rentals, I'm assuming this is for Kenwood Cove,
Yes.
$1,100, that would be for like a per day basis, or is that
That
a
is
party at night?
for an
or-
hourly basis.
That's hourly.
That's what we charge for hourly for a private exclusive rental of Kenwood Cove.
Then how about on Dean Evans rental, $1,000, it says per date, so that would be a whole day?
Correct. Yeah, per date of tournament, per day of tournament.
So if they had
yeah.
2 dates or 3 dates, it'd be $1,000 per day.
And that's base price. There are some reduction of fees based on if they're a school or based on a contract or an agreement that we have with a certain organization, for Dean Evans specifically.
Then how do you work like practices in for someone like, that's not Parks and Rec practice, it's a individual like a KW or somebody like that?
Sure. Based on the agreement he was pertaining to, we have a hierarchy. The base, when Dean Evans was renovated, of baseball enterprise, and it just goes through the list that we do, and then when that's due, like South High or Central, their practices are due at this date, and then once we go through that, then you have a community or private rental that falls in that line, and we do get some of those practices. Now, sometimes they have to follow another practice, or we wedge them in there, but we do that.
You might explain to them the problems that you have this year because of construction, so forth.
Are you referring to the facility right next to it?
Yes.
Talking about Wilbur?
Yes.
We have that on our list under projects, to talk about projects.
Okay.
Wilbur? When we get to the project updates, yeah.
So we're now looking for a motion to approve of this increase?
I would love for the board to consider a motion to,
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fee increases and the ones that there's no change in as
Written up? All in favor, say aye.
I'll second it.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you. Could be very well a formal, I like this formal process because there very well could be a year where we have to justify why we're going above 10%. So your involvement in this is very important to me.
So do we need a separate one per, I mean, I'm not sure which one we approved, but is there two motions to be actions? One's a cost recovery summary and one's a recommendation fees?
I was just seeking the recommendation of the fees for 2024.
My motion was for the recommendations
Okay, that's
of
fine.
the increases.
Okay, old business.
I don't have anything for old business unless the board does.
Nothing old business. How about project updates?
Yes, I have several. Since it was brought up, I'll start with 9F, Salina Baseball Enterprises future Pestinger Family Stadium. We provided a notice to proceed to Salina Baseball Enterprises to start work at the currently named Wilbur Field, which is adjacent to Dean Evans Stadium. The future will be called Pestinger Family Stadium. We're working on those signage plan now. It's already been worked on, actually, but we're moving forward with replacing this park signage that is out in front of Wilbur Field with something that will indicate it's Pestinger Family Stadium. Also, we'll be changing the name of Tower Field, which is the furthest field to the south, and that'll be now called Wilbur Field. And that'll have a name change, that has a name change with it, and that'll be a sign change as well to indicate the change of field. So as I started to state, we gave the notice to proceed to start work to Salina Baseball Enterprises just last week. They already have equipment on site. They're preparing to start excavating soil from the field starting Monday, I believe, and they're moving right along. I had something else to add to that.
Estimated time to get done, the field?
They have desires and goals to finish the turf field work before the end of May, which will be just in time for the state tournament to be held at both Dean Evans and Wilbur Field. That's what they like to accomplish. So as the special meeting occurred, you learned that they are going forward with a phased approach. That phased approach will be, the first phase will be site work, field lighting, fencing, and of course the turf field with under drainage. And that they're starting off pretty quickly with that turf work. So you'll start to see soil being removed from the site. And so they can get an established, I don't remember the name of what it's called, but they have to establish the base to work from. And they use a concrete slurry to kind of form that before they start building under drains and then gravel and then turf on top of that. So the lights are being ordered. There's a longer lead time with the lights, and then fencing will occur as well.
I just wanted to point out, and I think where Denny was getting at with this is the timing of which the project start does affect some things. And typically Sacred Heart is practice on that field. We have to, they have to find another place. We've had youth practices on there. We've had tournaments. So much like Bill Burke, I've learned that with renovation and everything comes pain. It's a painful process, but in the end, product is worth it. But we are trying to modify operations during that time, and so there will be some change, just in case you hear something there.
Any other questions regarding the future Pestinger Family Stadium. Since Travis brought up Bill Burke, yes, sir.
I don't know if we mentioned that the scoreboards, there'll be 2 new scoreboards, one for each stadium.
The scoreboard for Dean Evans, there is a new scoreboard as part of the project for Wilbur Field, our Pestinger Family Stadium. We have asked, their desires are to have a similar scoreboard at Wilbur and at Dean Evans, and I tend to agree. That would be a project separate from their project that I would fund separately through park improvement funds. The scoreboard at Dean Evans has seen, it doesn't look good. It's faded, and the some of the graphics that are on there have darkened, and it's hard to read. Some of the operational controls are not the best, so we are looking at renovating that or refurbishing that scoreboard. I think, and we're still in the initial stages of that, but Salina Baseball Enterprises is helping with that to kind of come up with a scope of work for what it would take to refurbish or renovate the scoreboard at Dean Evans. But yes, their desire is to have it the same. I'm not sure if that'll be exactly the way it goes, as we're still going into the scope of work and for the scoreboards.
And then the lighting for both stadiums?
The lighting for both stadiums, that's a good point. I didn't say that. The lighting project is part of the project for Wilbur and to update the lighting at Dean Evans. Dean Evans Stadium has been a long ago when the Dean Evans project happened through Salina Baseball Enterprises. The lighting did not occur at that time, but it will be occurring now. So they'll be using the existing poles at Dean Evans, but changing the fixtures on top to LED and updated controls of how to control those lights.
I'm just recollecting from our meeting.
Nope, that's great. That's a good point, though. But Dean Evans, and if you recall from the special meeting, there is a contribution by the city of up to $932,000 with a maximum of $1 million to contribute to the fencing, lighting, and the site work. Yeah, and part of a hitting cage. We're splitting the cost of the hitting cage. Bill Burke, fencing improvements. We're getting to we're not at the end yet. We got a few more weeks left. They're working steadily after having a pretty hard January of not being able to accomplish much because of the weather. They're playing catch up. They're moving right along. We did extend their contract by some because of those weather days that occurred in January. But it's I couldn't give you a percentage of completion. They do have fields 1, 2, and part of 3 are looking okay, but they're not ready to play on yet. And that's why Travis mentioned about trying to solve problems for people to play on. It won't be next week, but it looks like we'll be able to get some people on the field the week after. So. Pickleball, going back to the top, the pickleball project's complete. I'm going to take it off the list. We are looking at some lighting improvements. The lights there do have power to them. We found that some of the fixtures or the lights were not turning on, so we're getting that resolved. The former Oakdale skating pond is at its final stages as well. We're getting ready to pull the fencing down if we haven't already done so. And then we'll be doing some final grading and getting it ready for seed. Tennis bathrooms is at its final stages as well. If I don't recall what I reported in the past, but we've had a few things we found in that old building that we had to make better. One of the ceilings was sagging by about 5 inches. It was the ceiling of one of the bathrooms that had a lot of snow load from the wind. The wind would push the snow, and then the snow would probably at one time in the past had caused some damage to the roof structure. We found some rather shoddy construction of that roof underneath that asbestos ceiling. We had to remediate the asbestos, repair the ceiling, put in a new wood structure that would support the load of the roof. So that caused a little bit of delay. We're currently, but the interior finishes are done. We have it painted, drywalled. The epoxy floor is in its final stages, and we're getting ready to set partitions and set toilets, and probably be ready for probably keep it closed until the weather is kind of out of the possibility of it freezing, because it is designed to be a seasonal bathroom. It's not designed to be a year-round bathroom, so it is not heated. But we are at the finishing touches of that, finishing stages of that. We have to do some exterior improvements. The roof was just done. The roof was completed just recently. We have guttering to put on. We want all the water to be draining to the west and not towards the new tennis complex. Fascia, the metal frame around the roof, is being replaced with brown new metal. So that we got some more work to do, but it's in the final stages. One thing about Salina Baseball Enterprises, I just recalled, we are meeting with them next week to kind of do a pre-construction conference. So that's just want to let you know there. And last thing I have on my list was we recently met with a contractor for phase 3 of concrete improvements, which was awarded in November. They are getting ready to start soon on concrete sidewalk and parking improvements at Indian Rock Park and the tennis facility. So those are some of the projects reports I have to give. If I miss something or if you have questions, please ask.
Well, back on Oakdale, Dennis's group has done a nice job where the old tennis courts were. You can't even tell they were there. And so that's what will be nice when that, I still call it the ice skating rink, when it's out of there. You have a lot of nice area there, so.
I'm looking forward to getting a couple mows in there, and it'll be our new recreational space just north of the tennis courts.
Add a lot of space to Oakdale. Oakdale's always been real crowded, and so this will add a lot. Yep.
Okay, is there any general announcements then?
I have none.
None whatsoever? Any motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.